Hi, my name is Christina Jamison and I'm from the School of Home Ownership. Today's interview I have a special guest, Debbie Lin, who is a financial planner, and we'll be talking about something that's very particular to our sandwich generation. That's my generation, who you're looking after kids and will be looking after your elderly parent. So Debbie, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in your company.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks for having me. My name's Debbie Lin. I'm financial planner, advisor. They go hand in hand. Independent financial advisor, so I call myself like a GP of advice, bit of everything. However, I specialise in aged care advice as well. It's such a stressful event to have to put someone into care. Nobody does it lightly. It is complicated in terms of how to pay for it. It's why getting some good advice can make a big difference.
And you've got all those emotions, the guilt. Like, I do not look forward for that ever happening with my parents. But it's so much going on, and to have the finances and all that to sort of have to deal with as well.
A situation recently where mum was getting worse with dementia. She lived in her own home. She had an investment property. The family didn't want to sell the home. They want to keep it for the family. So they decided to sell the investment property because the facility they were looking at was $1 million. One wasn't happy about selling it, but as I said to them, well, where are you going to get $100,000 a year to pay for mum's care if you don't sell that property? So sometimes it's quite black and white, but there's an emotional decision to sell a property or to part with something that's been in the family for a while. So, but at the other end, sometimes people assume they have to sell the family home, and that's not always the right decision either, because that can affect their age pension. Making that decision incorrectly can lead to higher costs and losing age pension. So it really depends on the situation, which way it can go.
So you've got to really be careful so we don't lose out by getting that advice up front.
Absolutely.
And for example, what if there's an emotional tie to a property and they should sell? So you're saying that there's a couple of options, is that you will always have the right to choose. You can borrow from the government. So how does that?
So absolutely. You don't have to pay, the $500,000 lump sum up front. You have the right to effectively borrow that from the government. So the government sets the interest rate every 6 months, currently 6.31%, so it's a high interest rate, but you're effectively borrowing that lump sum from the government. So, it might be a scenario where mum is very, very ill and not likely to last very long. So the family might decide, we're just going to pay that interest in effect because we don't think mum's going to last, 6 to 12 months. So, they don't want to scramble and sell the property. They're just going to pay the monthly interest instead. So
you do actually have to pay the month. You can't capitalise on it. You actually pay.
No, you pay monthly. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something. I thought you could just postpone the costs, and then when you sell the property, so it's not like reverse mortgages. It's basically you pay the interest.
You're basically borrowing from the government, and the aged care facility will bill you generally monthly, and they get information from the Centrelink on how much to charge. If there's a means tested care fee, and they do the calculation and they will invoice you once a month and take the money there. Yeah.
So if, for example, I haven't done my homework, as you suggested, that we talk about finances and talk about things before it gets too late, so much earlier stage, what can you do? Like, for example, they might have a stroke and you don't know what's going on, you don't know the bank accounts, you don't know. How would you go about it?
Well, it is good to have an idea, to have an idea of mum or dad's financial position. If you don't, you might go to their accountant if they don't already have a financial advisor. Otherwise, it's a scramble to find out what's going on. I recently helped someone who had to put mum into care, and he had no idea about her finances. And so I was forensically researching her bank accounts to find, pension payments, and there was some UK pension and what all the payments were to try and build up a good picture of her assets, which we managed to do, but he just had no idea. So, as I say, that preparation makes a big difference. If you have an idea just where mum or dad's money is invested, if they have any, the bank accounts, what's where, it makes a big difference.
And there's another thing that one of the things as a mortgage broker I've got to be careful is senior abuse. So do you get to see that, and how do you prevent it? And because if dementia starts setting in, then how does that all get affected? And
That's a tough one. I must admit, I did have one a few years ago where I don't always meet the person going into care. Usually I'm providing advice through their power of attorney, but I always will try and meet with the person if I can, because there is always that element of elder abuse and money going missing and all sorts of things. So it can be difficult, but that's rarely have I come across that, I have to say.
that's good. But I guess if you're all talking together, all the siblings are on the same page, that's probably the key.
Just about every time, they just want what's best for mum, sometimes dad, but mostly mum. They just want to make sure that she's comfortable and she's looked after. So, then it's how to fund it, sort of secondary. Sometimes I might say, oh, can we afford to, we can't afford that, paying $750,000 lump sum. But then I do the figures and I say, well, actually you can. I show you, yes, you can. So then they know, okay, well, we can place mum where we want to, and that makes a big difference.
And can we keep our parents at home? Does that come into it as well? Because I get the feel, and I would, you always want to try and keep your parents at home as long as you can.
Absolutely. And the government wants you to stay at home because it costs them less to keep you at home than it does to put you in an aged care facility. So they have various home care packages and different levels where you get a certain amount of funding to have services come to your home, whether it's cleaning, gardening, maintenance, transport, personal care, showering, a nurse or whatever. There is certainly home care packages available to keep you in the home.
Because there was another thing that we were discussing as well, where the daughter was doing all this sort of caring, the maintenance of the property, and as you were suggesting that go and focus on having the relationship with your parents while you can,
there comes a point where everybody wants to keep mum at home. She feels safe, but particularly with someone with dementia, or as I say, they've had a fall, they've broken their hip, and the house just has too many stairs or whatever, or you're too far away, the decision might be made to go into care. And as I say, a recent client I had, I just said to them, I said, you have spent your day off going to mum's home and caring for her and cleaning the house and doing everything. Once mum goes into care, you can get back to being a daughter and actually spending quality time with her instead, because she's being cared for in the aged care facility. So you can get that relationship back, and it's an absolute burden lifted off her shoulders, knowing that she hasn't gone wandering, she's safe, she's being fed. In this case, a month later, the facility said, can you buy mum some more clothes? She's put on weight because she's been eating.
No.
In dementia, they forget to eat or they forget to take medication. So often they get better before they get worse because they're actually getting cared for.
So thank you for that, Debbie. So in short, just get advice and look at all our options. So be well informed and try to prepare at an earlier stage. So thank you for that. So if we want to get in contact with you and get information, how do we go about that?
Go to our website, which is liquidityfp for financial planning.com.au.
So if you want more information and resources, go to schoolofhomeownership.com.au. Thank you.